आइए आज हम विश्लेषण करते हैं भारत के कुछ सबसे डरावने गांवों के रहस्यों का। Okay, for those who might not speak Hindi, that roughly translates to today we are analyzing the mysteries of some of India's most terrifying villages. Welcome to The Explainer. We're opening up some absolutely chilling local folklore and first-hand supernatural accounts documented all across India. We aren't just going to treat these like your typical spooky campfire tales, you know. Instead, we're looking at them as fascinating case files that really show us how local communities interact with the totally unexplained.
Okay, let's dive into this premise. What actually happens when a village of 1,000 people literally vanishes in a single night? We're exploring locations across India where the supernatural isn't just some scary story you tell in the dark, it is treated as a dangerous everyday reality, something locals have to actively manage just to survive. We are going to examine 4 distinct case files to really understand the mechanics of these hauntings. Let's open our first file.
Case File 1, Bemni, the Possessed Bride. So what makes Bemni so fascinating to me is how entirely normalized their relationship with the paranormal is. Let's set the scene. A young woman named Vartika heads up to the mountainous region of Himachal Pradesh for a wedding. Upon arriving, she sees a man repeatedly violently smashing his bleeding head against a tree. And the chilling part, the villagers completely ignore him. It was like they saw this every single day. Instead of helping him, the family's main focus was executing this strict protocol, frantically laying thick boundaries of salt all around the wedding house, calling the elder pundit immediately, and trying to basically re-establish a protective shield.
But during the actual ceremony, well, that shield totally failed. When the priest asked the bride to pour ghee into the sacred fire, she just froze. Out of nowhere, her head starts snapping violently from side to side. She dumps the entire container of ghee straight into the flames, burning the priest. Her skin visibly turns this pale, terrifying blue color, and she lunges at Vartika. She starts choking her, screaming in this deep, booming male voice, "How dare you!"
To understand why the locals just calmly brought in an elder pundit to negotiate with this thing, instead of, running away in absolute panic, we really have to look at the cultural context here. According to ancient mountain lore, this region was originally inhabited by Pishak, which are basically flesh-eating entities. As humans started settling there, they allegedly formed this uneasy territorial pact. Bemne is literally considered an allocated zone for these spirits, so the villagers, they just accept demonic possessions as a standard hazard of living there. Crazy, right?
Case File 2, Rajasthan, the Desert Illusions.
Now, what's really interesting about this case is the concept of a chalawa. We're moving from the mountains down to the arid deserts, following a political PR officer who got caught in a blinding sandstorm back in 2013. Stranded out there in the desert, he suddenly stumbles upon a quaint little hut. Inside, there's this welcoming, kind older couple offering him fresh food and water. He probably thought he hit the jackpot, right? Well, as we'll see, a chalawa is actually a supernatural illusion designed specifically to trap or deceive vulnerable travelers.
This illusion completely shattered when the officer's local driver finally tracked him down. We have this chilling split reality scenario playing out. The PR officer is sitting there, happily eating a meal with a sweet old couple in a cozy hut. But the local driver? He saw the horrifying truth. The hut was actually a burnt-out ruin, and that sweet couple sitting across from his boss, they were rotting, charred corpses with decaying skin. The driver was so completely paralyzed by terror that he couldn't even get the words out. He just grabbed his boss and rushed him out of there. The cultural origin of this specific haunting came to light later, thanks to the local sarpanch, or village head. Turns out, years prior, a young couple from that village had an intercaste marriage, which completely defied local customs. In this horrific act of violence by the local council, the Ka Panchet, the couple and their home were burned to the ground. So now, their spirits supposedly wander the desert. They appear totally normal to outsiders, but they reveal their tragic, charred reality to the locals, who failed to protect them.
Case File 3, Kuldara, the Abandoned Village. This site is infamous, not just for being haunted, but for being left entirely in ruins. The lore here says that 170 years ago, a tyrannical king set his sights on the daughter of the Palawal Brahmins who lived in Kuldara. They refused to surrender her, and as a result, all 1,000 residents vanished in a single night. Poof, gone. But right before they left, they cursed the land forever. Warning, no one shall ever spend a night here.
Obviously, someone had to test that curse. A team of paranormal investigators decided to try and spend just one day and night there. Tracking their timeline shows you exactly how fast the dread escalated. Midday, they arrive, setting up all their frequency meters. Normal stuff. By the afternoon, unexplainable dusty handprints of a small child just appear out of nowhere on their locked car. And by dusk, things went from spooky to downright dangerous, culminating in a full-blown physical attack at the village well.
Even before that attack, the sensory horrors they were dealing with were intense. I mean, they recorded their frequency meters violently spiking right alongside the distinct sound of unseen women's anklets, known as gungru, just circling around them. One of the investigators actually got separated from the group and saw a massive, tall shadow watching him from a ruined window. And if that's not bad enough, he then heard the distinct, terrifying sound of someone breathing heavily right into his ear.
The climax of all this happened right at the village well. One of the guys leans in with his flashlight, and suddenly, this distorted, pitch-black entity shoots out from the bat-infested darkness. It physically grabbed his arm, actively trying to pull him down into the well. His friends managed to drag him away, but the psychic shock was so severe he went into violent physical fits, literally foaming at the mouth. They had to abandon the village before nightfall. So yeah, it seems like that 170-year-old curse, still very much unbroken.
Case File 4. Churu, House of 13 Ghosts.
So the crucial point to remember here is the number 13. A brutal property dispute in this house culminated in a massive, bloody shootout, and exactly 13 family members died in the crossfire. According to the completely terrified locals, who absolutely refused to walk down that street after sunset, all 13 of those entities now haunt the decaying ruins. This is arguably our most terrifying location in the explainer.
An investigator described stepping into the courtyard of this house at 10:30 at night, and he said he was instantly hit by this suffocating wave of heavy depressive sadness. And then he met the cast of characters waiting inside. From behind a ruined kitchen wall, he hears this mocking, giggling voice, the aunt who actually instigated the fatal dispute. In another pitch-black room, hiding behind some old steel trunks, he spots 3 pairs of glowing, diamond-like eyes, the spirits of the children who were killed. And then there was the patriarch.
As absolute terror really starts to set in, the investigator and his friends try to just quietly slip away, but their exit is blocked. Standing right near the courtyard gate is a towering 6.5-foot-tall shadow of the patriarch, dressed in a traditional dhoti. The fear was so paralyzing that the investigator said he seriously considered just hurling himself over a wall into this foul, green, swampy pond, just so he wouldn't have to walk past this towering entity. Ultimately, they just bolted past it, sprinting away in absolute blind panic.
The price of curiosity, when the haunting follows you home.
Because, see, this story doesn't actually end when you leave the haunted site. Sometimes the nightmare just follows you. On the drive home from Churu, the investigator was hit with extreme, totally unexplainable physical sickness and severe nausea, which is a really common symptom associated with psychic attachments. Desperate for help, he visits a spiritual guru in Mukimpur, near Sonapat. Get this. Before the investigator could even get a word out to explain what happened, the guru takes one look at him and asks, "Where have you brought this thing from?" The guru instantly sensed that a 97-year-old entity from that massacre had attached itself to the guy and hitched a ride home.
And I think this brilliantly illustrates some absolute, crucial rules of survival that we can glean from all these case files. Rule number 1, do not ever eat food offered in these anomalous zones. It can literally grant entities permission to attach to you. 2, do not disrespect their boundaries. And 3, never seek them out purely for fun. Because even after seeing that guru, the investigator suffered one final night terror. He woke up in the pitch dark to feel the entity hovering directly over him, blowing this heavy, cold gust of air right into his face. No thank you.
Which leaves us with a deeply unsettling question to wrap up our analysis today. We've seen the psychological and the physical toll these locations take on the people who cross their borders. The supernatural in these villages isn't some game. It is a deeply ingrained, perilous reality for the people living there. So after reviewing all these cursed case files together, are you still brave enough to seek out the unknown? Or are some doors just better left completely closed? Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you next time.